Morning. I'm just going to run you through a lot of slides. This is a bronze that is currently missing from India and is hidden in the heart of Manhattan. And we've been searching for it for the last 3 years. And I just want to show you a few pictures how these bronzes are worshipped back home in India. I'm just going to run you through a few more slides, how objects, when they're removed out of context, lose their significance. This is how 7th century cave sculpture is worshipped on site. And especially bronzes, which are today much prized by the art market, we in India look at it as bodies of God. And they are dealt as living souls, living gods. This is a 1,000-year bronze, and you can still see the smile on his face. And that's how beautiful these objects are, but they were never meant to be objects of art. They were meant to be bodies of God. Sadly, I come from India where there's no conflict. We've had a stable government, but I think in terms of cultural property and theft, we would equal some of the distinguished speakers above me. And that's a reason that I've been trying to fight. And this is actually a sacred site. It's got an inscription that dates back to 2,300 years ago, and we're leading a team that is showing them that, sadly, these mountains are being quarried for granite. And this actually talks about two salesmen who were selling sugar and salt 2,300 years ago. These mountains would probably go off in the next 2 to 3 years. We also had a great tradition of honoring our fallen, including a dog. And this is actually a honorary stone praising a dog from the 7th century, naming it. And that's how big a tradition that we are. This is a 7th century dog that has been immortalized in stone for biting off a robber. We have tons of heritage sites in India, and this is one small temple which came to me when I was called for this conference, not for the beauties it holds. I just want to show you the size of this sculpture. That's a kaki, by the way. And this temple had a property dispute in the 10th century, and there were a couple of rich people who were trying to claim the temple's property, and the custodians of the temple actually came up with a simple solution. To prove that the temple land belonged to the god, they gave up their lives. And that's the tradition that I come from, where God's property is valued with their lives. Sadly, it's been reduced to this state. They've been trafficked. I'm just going to run you through images where their hands are sawed off, thinking that there's gold in them. Ceiling panels lifted. In many museums, we find these objects. Entire panels, that's an entire set that has been taken off. This is from an archaeologically protected site in India. And replaced with fakes. It takes a trained eye, but then you can still spot that the third sculpture is a recent replica. We have tons of such sculptures. The Sita there is a modern fake. And where are these originals? I'm going to name a few people because this was part of a book. Sotheby's was part of Peter Watson's book. And sadly, what happened to the perpetrators of this crime? Vaman Giya was acquitted by a lower court. And the government of India has not yet even filed an appeal in the higher court, where this convicted criminal at that point of time had confessed to selling 10,000 objects of art on an industrial scale, looting with Sotheby's. And the dealers who were sacked are currently running an antique shop as well. And I just want to mention the CAG report by the government of India. It said from 2000 to 2012, the Archaeological Survey of India did not even restitute back one object. And since they also mentioned there's no archive of centrally protected sites, and since we are with the V&A, I just take a time, it does mention that during the pre-British era, the National Museum loaned 700 items to the V&A for which they have no record, and technically these items are still on loan, and if you can find a document, India would ask for it. So what's the problem? We have a large quantum of dispersed art, and then this is the archive that I'm currently working with the French Institute. It's still not digitized, and you have very small, so every time we go there, we spend about 2 days going through 6,000 objects and to come up with objects that are currently on sale, and the prices are astronomous. We've got objects that are selling for millions of dollars. for almost 3 million. And the sad state of my police force back home in India. In fact, this bronze, I'm not sure if you recognize it, it's in the US, and it's been in the US for the last 40 years. It was advertised along with the concert, and they advertised a 5,000 rupee reward for anyone who gives information about its theft last year. They didn't even know that it's left India 70 years ago, and the prize was $50. We also have pillage from sites like Chandraketuga, which was excavated as late as 1967, and every museum, every collector has these terracottas with them. Beautiful sites, not much is even known about them in India. So we, as an online group, we decided to be the change. So what did we do? We started our focus on restitution. We started building awareness. We act as a deterrent, influence policy with the government. And you can see there's two guys. The guy in charge of lining the road didn't have the job of moving the tree trunk. And then we work with capacity building. So the results. So this was the Ardhanarishwara, which was currently in Australia. We tracked it. We managed to find it. We managed to find out that it was a replica that was put up there. It was returned. It was returned by the Australian Premier to the Indian Premier. And then this led to a large-scale cache of stolen objects. These are robber photos of Australia still holds them, despite this proof. And a whole lot of provenance papers, which are obviously fake, with the art loss register certificates, which are practically useless for India. And then this is the Nataraja that came back. And this is the empty shrine that was there, the robber photos. Our press campaign, we did a YouTube launch for this, and finally he came back. And the greatest pride is not the return, but when he went back to the exact sanctum where he was stolen from. And this was the village when it was looted, and when the villagers decided to welcome back the Nataraja. We have helped with a lot of these restitution efforts, and I'm happy to share my stories later. Thank you.